New transfers are either a blessing or a curse. Now let me explain. A brand new signing, a brand new player, you can utilize them in a particular way. The way you utilize them, it might open the door to a new dimension. It's exciting, but at the same time, sometimes utilizing a player in a certain way, sometimes signing a player of a certain profile can hinder one of your best. What am I here to discuss? Joao Felix, Reijnders. Reijnders, who just a few months ago was arguably the best midfielder in this area. In my opinion, one of the best midfielders in the world. Based on how he'd performed this season, he was looking like the complete midfielder. Now, Haj, what do you mean by the complete midfielder? I mean a player that gives you everything you want in midfield. They always tell you, go out there and win your midfield battle. If you win the midfield battle, you've won 50% of the game. He was a player that helped Milan win their midfield battles, but at the same time, he had that quality in the final third. He was decisive. He was smart with his runs. He was a player that could manipulate the opposition. He can maneuver himself out of the opposition. He can score goals. He can get assists. And he was a player that was talk of the town in Milan. But in my opinion, that's changed ever since February the 2nd / the 3rd, when Milan made the signing of Joao Felix. Now let me explain. Now let's just look at the numbers before I do my favourite thing. The analysis, the 3 and the 2 and the 5 with the 6 and the inverting runs, all of that sweet stuff. Let me just show you guys the numbers. Now, before Joao Felix was signed, Reijnders was sitting on 10 goals, 2 assists. Touches in the attacking third, 18.12. That is an all-time high. That is amazing. That is what you want in a midfielder. Carries into the attacking third, 2.96. When I compare him to players across the world, he's up there. 2.96 is a very good number. Shot creating actions, 3.89. That's the amount of opportunities that he's creating for his teammates in the final third. It shows he's creative. It shows he knows how to pick his passes out. Progressive passes, 6.92. That is also very good. That is also, when I compare it to other midfielders across the world, up there. It's sitting at the top of the table. And on top of that, all of these things were done with a 90% pass accuracy. So it tells you he's efficient, but he's effective. Now let's look at Reijnders' numbers ever since Joao Felix came into this Milan team. We're looking at 0 goals, 0 assists. Touches in the attacking third have gone down to 11.5. Carries into the attacking third have gone down to 1.82. Shot creating actions have made a massive drop to 1.15. Progressive passes, it's still decent, but it's also taken a drop to 4.41. The pass accuracy has gone up, and it's gone up to 94%. Now, why has the pass accuracy gone up? Because now he plays a little bit deeper. When you play deeper, your passes, they tend to be a bit more safe. So the safer your passes, the higher your pass accuracy goes. But listen, for an all-action midfielder like Reijnders, for a guy as a midfielder, you've put up 10 goals and we're only in February. What's happened? Because I feel like his performances are still top-notch. But I feel like now he can't do the things which were so penetrative, which were so impactful, which had the opposition bamboozled, thinking, look at this guy stepping into the attacking third, dictating. Why? Let's look at it like this. Prior to Joao Felix being signed, Reijnders, as much as at times he might have played in a double pivot, and there were periods under Fonseca where he played amongst the attacking trio, he had a lot of license to push forward into midfield. Why? At times, Alvaro Morata was used as the number 10, but Alvaro Morata, he tended to push up. So the space that he left in that central area for someone to step into, dictate, and control the tempo of the game in the final third, Reijnders used to step into it. Reijnders had license to push forward. And you see that little area just outside the opposition box? He had the ability, but he had the time and the space to dictate, to orchestrate, to be the connector. Now, why has it changed? Ever since Joao Felix has come in, that is now Joao Felix's position. Now, you can clearly see Joao Felix is the connector in this 4-2-3-1. So now it becomes his job to orchestrate, to dictate, to be the connector from midfield to attack. And I'm not saying Joao Felix can't do it. But what I am saying is he can't do it to the level of Reijnders. And I understand Joao Felix has only been at Milan for about 4 or 5 games and it's still early, but this is just my opinion. From what I've seen of Reijnders at the beginning of the season, from what I've seen of Joao Felix, when I compare their profiles, I feel like Reijnders in that position is more suited. Now why? Why do I think he's more suited? For me, Joao Felix is a player that loves the ball to feet. Now that's good, especially for a player that plays in that area. He has to be comfortable playing with his back to goal. He has to be comfortable getting himself out of tight, congested areas. But where the problem that I personally have with Joao Felix is I feel like he holds onto the ball for a bit too long. Reijnders, he doesn't. When Reijnders spots the pass, he makes it. Joao Felix, as much as I feel like he's so entertaining to watch, and I still feel like there's still 3-4 more levels that we can see in a Milan shirt from now up until the end of the season. Joao Felix holds onto the ball too much. I've mentioned this before in the video. A player that is touch heavy. He takes the extra 2-3 touches. He goes for the extra nutmeg. He goes for the extra back heel. He goes for the extra flick. And when it works out, we all sit down and say, wow. But when it doesn't work out, it's Milan losing the ball in a very dangerous area when on another day, they could have gone, created an opportunity and scored. The difference between the two is, as a connector, you have to be smart, sound, quick in possession. Give and go. Give and go. Don't take those unnecessary touches. Your job as a connector is to get the ball to the attacking players in the right space, but most importantly, in the right space, but at the right time. Joao Felix, I feel like he gets them the ball in the right space, but not at the right time. And I've seen throughout every single game of his, sometimes he makes the pass when I'm sat telling myself, if you had passed it 5 seconds earlier, he was 1v1 with the fullback. You've passed it 5 seconds later, it's now 2v1. The player can't go out and attack the fullback because he's at a disadvantage. That is the main difference. Another issue is Reijnders used to push into the space that now Joao Felix is occupying. So now there's 2 players in that area. And at times they get into one another's way and it really does hinder this Milan team. But what's also a problem is I've realised with Joao Felix, he tends to drop deep a lot to pick up the ball. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. Drop deep, create those overloads, help your team progress the ball higher up the field. But when you've got a midfielder that's a specialist in progressing play through his passing and through his ball carrying, stay higher up the field. And I guarantee you, Reijnders will get you the ball in the right space at the right time. But there were games, like especially when I keep thinking back of that final game, I was seeing Joao Felix dropping to the halfway line. And Reijnders is right next to him. And I'm thinking, what are the both of you doing on the halfway line? Because when Felix drops, that space, the connector space, the number 10 space, is now left unoccupied. Nobody is there. It makes it harder for Milan to mount an attack. But Joao Felix, I feel like he gravitates towards the ball. If the ball is on the left, he goes to the left. If the ball is on the right, he goes to the right. He follows where the ball. There's positives and there's negatives to it. But I feel like at the moment, we're only seeing the negatives of it. Why? Because when he drops deep, he practically plays next to Reijnders. Reijnders is now forced to give him the ball in that relatively lower area when on another day, Reijnders wants to pick it up and carry. And I feel like that's why now you could clearly see Reijnders' numbers, they've dropped. Because he doesn't, I wouldn't say he doesn't have the license to join the attack anymore. I just feel like the space that he used to attack, the space that he used to exploit, the space that he used to have most fun in, is now occupied by Joao Felix. But Joao Felix can't be as penetrative as a Reijnders was at the beginning of the season. Why? Because they're 2 completely different profiles. Why? Because they both play the game in a different way. They're 2 different players. And that's why I said to you guys, a brand new signing can either be a blessing or a curse. Now, in my humble opinion, I feel like it's still early. New players, new systems, new managers. It takes a while for them to build chemistry, for them to understand with one another. So you never know. In a month's time, it might become a case where when Reijnders goes, Felix sits. Why does Felix sit? To occupy the space that Reijnders leaves behind. It's all about chemistry. It's all about positional rotation. The best teams in the world, they master positional rotation, which is when you go, I sit. When I go, you sit. When I tuck inside, you go back out wide. At the moment, we're not really seeing it at Milan because when one drops deep, the other one stays deep. When one pushes higher up, the other one doesn't drop deep. And that's why sometimes defending transitions, sometimes in the final third, it can get crowded out with players occupying the same space when in reality, you're supposed to spread yourself out. But time will tell whether Reijnders can pick up and show what he showed in the beginning of the season, or if Joao Felix occupying the zone that he likes is now going to take that spark away from Reijnders. Now, if you're new, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to let me know what you think in the comments, and I will catch you guys on another one.